Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes, and this is a podcast about professional wrestling. So that's what we're going to be talking about for the next couple of hours or so, right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes or on your favorite podcast application. I hope you're having a great start to your week. I am, for sure, especially on weeks like today where there's so much stuff to talk about. So we really got a lot of stuff to get into. But before we do, consider leaving a like if you're watching this on YouTube, and subscribe if it's the first time you're here, and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and a 5-star rating on Spotify on your favorite audio application as well for your podcast. That would be tremendous. Now, I'm going to give you a bit of a heads up. Unfortunately, towards the back end of my SummerSlam review, the audio started to get garbled, and there was no way for me to realize it. It wasn't. I don't know exactly what happened, but it sounds a little robot-y. If you find it annoying, I completely understand, but if you can stick it through, that's even better. But I understand it's not great. Nothing much I can do to fix it, and I apologize, hat in hand, right now. Say and I we'll make sure that it doesn't happen next time. But at least the majority of the show is okay. But man, within the SummerSlam review, that's tremendous. That's one of the things we're talking about here tonight, by the way. SummerSlam Cleveland, or SummerSlam 2024, which happened just a couple of days ago. So that's on the menu. We've got so much stuff to talk about. We've got Shane McMahon and TK who met. We've got the Lucha Brothers contract news. We've got a Janel Grant lawsuit update. There's all sorts of stuff to cover. Let's just get right to it. Thank you very much for being here. And let's do it. Let's start off with a quick update on the Janel Grant lawsuit. We got a little update once again, courtesy of Brandon Thurston over at WrestleNomics. There's your weekly plug to subscribe to their Patreon and support the awesome work that Brandon does. There was an update today. Judge Jeffrey Meyer ruled on Tuesday to deny Vince McMahon's motion to enforce the federal court stay order against Janel Grant related to a petition she filed to acquire papers from Dr. Carlin Coker of Peak Wellness, a physician who has been providing her with pills and IV infusions without disclosing the composition of those treatments. We talked about that. We've been talking about it over the past couple of weeks. Janel Grant had filed this motion about a month ago. This petition is what specifically it's called, and to once again to get these medical papers essentially from Dr. Carlin Coker. On July 25th, WrestleNomics had reported that Vince McMahon's attorneys moved to prevent Grant from using any evidence gained from that petition. They say the petition in state court is a violation of the stay on the federal lawsuit. The lawyers also asking the court to declare that Grant could be held in contempt for filing the petition and any similar actions. Specifically saying Jessica Taub Rosenberg, Vince McMahon's lawyer, specifically said in a statement to WrestleNomics that the motion is quote unquote in response to Ms. Grant's flagrant violation of the federal stay order. Now, just to refresh everyone's memory, the stay order was agreed by two parties to basically pause the Janel Grant's lawsuit. I mean, they agreed to this pause in June due to a federal investigation into allegations of sex trafficking and sexual assault being conducted by authorities from the Southern District of New York, basically the feds, according to a report in February from the Wall Street Journal. Grant, of course, had filed her own lawsuit previous to this. And that's the lawsuit that is being asked to be put on hold, not the It is because the feds are investigating that they asked that lawsuit to be put on hold. Both Grant's and McMahon's and WWE and LawrenHayes' side agreed to it. And now we're here. This is where we're here right now. After telling the federal court that she would pause her lawsuit, this is again from the lawyer, just to make sure that that we get all the information out. The lawyer, Vince McMahon's lawyer, after telling the federal court that she would pause her lawsuit, Ms. Grant immediately violated the stay order, seeking one-sided discovery on her benefit. Her lawyer told the media that the information sought in the new Connecticut state action is to, quote, assist in our claims in the federal action. We are asking the federal court to ensure that plaintiff, that would be Grant in this case, abides by the court's order, and if she does not, that civil contempt and financial sanctions may result. Judge Meyer today ruled that the stay doesn't apply to Grant's proceedings in state court. This was taken from the. This is what was taken from the judge's statement, his decision on the situation. Exact quote. Federal district courts do not ordinarily regulate or sit in review of proceedings in state courts, and the court's stay order did not purport to extend to any state court proceedings. If there is any objection to state court proceedings, relief should be in state court rather than in this court being the federal court. Accordingly, the court denies defendant McMahon's motion to enforce the court's stay order for failure to show that there has been a violation of the court's stay order, end quote. So basically, that's what we speculated last week. Again, me just like throwing this out there, but basically, this is what I thought was that there would be no reason for federal court to get involved in state affairs. Like that to me didn't make sense, and I I'm not a lawyer, and I'm definitely not deeply rooted into the American legal system. But with the cursory knowledge I know, I was like, well, okay, this makes sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to ask a federal court to intervene on state affairs, and that's basically what the judge said today, which led me to believe that this was all kind of procedural, that this was something that lawyers needed to do. You have to combat, even though you don't have any feet to stand on or whatever. You just need to put up resistance. Otherwise, it might look bad. It might be misinterpreted when things do go to court. So we were right. We were right. There was nothing much to worry about, and Grant does not need to comply to the stay in obtaining these documents. More documents were filed, but they're sealed. But more documents were filed in the docket for the trial, essentially for the suit is what I'm trying to say. But that's it. Like nothing was. The documents are sealed, so we don't know what they are. Maybe they're related to this. Maybe it is the Coker information from Peak Wellness. Maybe not. We don't know. So, as usual, to be continued. We will continue covering the Janel Grant lawsuit as it develops. We will also be covering another developing story as things move along. And this is in the case, it's not a legal case, but it is an interesting case nonetheless, that of the Lucha Bros, who may allegedly be leaving AEW for WWE. Now, I don't want to just read up the. I want to put up a timeline here. I've got some research going here, keeping tabs on everything. So I wanted to give a little context and set up a timeline here of things, just to make sure that that things all come together. On June 6, 2024, I should say, the online Twitter account, as if there was an offline Twitter account. I don't know why I felt compelled to say online Twitter account. There's no such thing as an offline Twitter account. Could you imagine like an offline Twitter or X, formerly Twitter, where you just have people, they go to a place and they all convene, like hundreds of people, and all they do is argue and yell on top of each other? God. On June 6, 2024, let's start over. On June 6, 2024, Lucha Libre Online on Twitter reported that Penta El Zero Miedo's contract expires this summer, and that WWE was expressing interest. On July 29, 2024, Fightful broke news that Rey Fénix's contract would also be up this fall. So already a couple of weeks ago, even over a month ago, there was already these rumors circulating, things going around. Well, on August 5th, 2024, it all sort of coalesced and came together as it was reported by Ibu over at Wrestle Purists that the Lucha Bros were likely headed to WWE by the end of their contract. The tweet, I think that Ibu, who is also known as Backup Hangman on X, formerly Twitter, I think he said this on his podcast, as opposed to have written up an article or whatever. The Wrestle Purists, the Wrestle Purists Twitter account posted this. According to multiple AEW sources, the Lucha Bros are expected to leave AEW when their contracts expire this year. Some sources speculated they were heading to WWE. Some claimed it was a formality. They were originally planned for an AEW World Trios title match at Wembley, but plans have now changed. So that's the report coming from Ibu. And then later in the day, on the same day, Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Online Observer, I don't even know how to refer to him. Do we do the Figure 4 Online thing with him now? Or is it all just Observer? Or is it Figure 4 Online the Observer? I don't know. Alvarez reported that it's the internal belief that AEW, within AEW, that both Penta and Rey Fénix would be leaving WWE once their contracts expire. This news comes after Wrestle Purists reported earlier on Monday that the two were expected to leave, and a trios championship match had been set at All In involving the duo, but it has since been changed. Since this touches the world of Lucha Libre, Cubs fan over at Lucha Blog weighed in on this situation and had some very interesting thoughts, some very interesting quotes, a little more information, but some very interesting analysis from someone who just exclusively follows Mexican pro wrestling. This is what Cubs had to say. Quote, "The situation appears to be AEW staff being told to stop pitching ideas for these guys. The Wrestle Purists report mentions that the Lucha Brothers were pulled from a trios match at All In, and then putting together why they were being told to stop. There was no tease of a build of a Lucha Brothers trios match on AEW TV recently. It doesn't seem like that idea was far enough along to get on screen. It's unclear if this means the Lucha Brothers are done in AEW completely or will just be used for one-off appearances." So that's an important distinction to make here, because clearly we could, despite the idea that they clearly seem to be going and that they're essentially being written off television, like don't give them anything, maybe they still might do things, but they won't be doing high-profile things. We don't know yet. Lucha Blog also adds the following. Penta probably makes the most money of the two between he and Rey Fénix. He takes a lot of outside bookings. And he's still living in the Mexico City area and gets flown into the U.S. into the show unlike WWE wrestlers. They don't do that. The wrestlers travel. They go along, right? WWE's either had to offer so much over the top that it's worth Penta's time to relocate to the US, or they've waived the relocation requirement. Either way, WWE TKO must have offered a very strong deal when they've seemingly been reluctant to do so recently. That's positive news for all wrestlers. And he's right. It is absolutely positive news for pro wrestlers. This is the essence of what we were talking about when AEW was formed, and everyone, a lot of people got really mad because there wasn't just one game in town. If there's multiple places where wrestlers can go be on national television, get exposure, and make a decent living out of it in the meantime, that's a win for the talent, who have been effectively for 20 odd years had only one place to go. They only had one place to go. And if it didn't work out there, they'd be back working the indies, or, TNA was around, and that was about as high as it went, right? It's very interesting to me that that now, like, let me rephrase that. It's interesting because for a while, AEW was, AEW went and got like big time former WWE wrestlers like Chris Jericho, John Moxley, and recently Mercedes Moné, and then you can even extend that to Kazuchika Okada. You can extend that to Will Ospreay, and that's all good and whatnot. And a lot of people were very happy about that, and they were going and they were very much on using the same discourse. It was like, oh, isn't it great that wrestlers can move between promotions and so on and so forth? But it's been very lopsided. Now we're starting to see, slowly, but it's coming, not just AEW wrestlers, but other wrestlers heading over to WWE. But let's talk about the AEW wrestlers specifically here. And now a lot of people are upset about it. Now a lot of people are getting a little angry about it. Getting in their feelings, I feel a little bit. Because now it's like, yes, it's the free open market, and there really is some real life free agency that happens now that hadn't happened since the 1990s, honestly. But now that the Lucha Bros are going over to WWE, no, that's bad. Now that makes them upset. And I can understand if it makes someone upset in their appreciation of the Lucha Brothers and their fandom, right? I can absolutely get that. But ultimately, if you want to take a very objective way of seeing things, this is tremendous. This is great. Like, good for them. Good for them if they are going off to not only get the bag, but do something different. Let's be absolutely, completely honest with each other here. The Lucha Bros over the past couple of years have been doing jack in AEW. They have not been booked. And there's multiple reasons for that, but they have just creatively have been stagnating. They essentially hit a ceiling ever since we got done with the best of 7 series for the trios titles. It's been over. They have been doing nothing with those guys. And you're a professional wrestler. This is what you do for a living. You want to make money, and you're like, but I'd also like to do what I do. Well, why don't I go back? Why don't I go try it out in another place? Why don't I go to WWE and see what they'll do? Are they right in doing that or not? Well, look, time will tell, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the point being is that Tony wasn't using them. Now, is this a good or a bad thing? Everyone has their opinion on that. That's clearly up to you and me to decide. You want my opinion? Yeah, Tony Khan has been very poorly using the Lucha Bros. I think the Lucha Bros have constantly been an overact since the beginning of AEW, since the very onset of it. From the moment that these guys joined the company, they've been completely overact. And even despite their terrible booking on top of it all. So should Tony have booked them better? Yeah, sure. But let's also let's try and stay objective about this. How many times has Rey Fénix been injured? Or, whatever. How many times has he been out of action and for months on end? And Penta, well, God bless Penta. Like, no one has benefited more than from the Lucha Underground than Penta El Zero Miedo has. No one has done better than him, has benefited more than him. That transformed him into the eyes of North American fans. And God bless Penta, he's been doing the same match over and over again for a long time at this point. He's been getting over on his catchphrase and his look and his aura, because he does have one. And I don't know what a singles run would look. Everyone bemoans that there was no real singles run for Fénix, and I'm completely with that. Bemoans the singles run for Penta. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, I guess. He's got the charisma. He's got the connection. But, ultimately, could they have been booked better? Yes. But they've also been injured out for so long, so many times, that it's just like, what's the use? Why would you try to build something strong around them if they're not going to be around, if that makes sense? So anyway, back to Lucha Blog here. If WWE is ever going to make a serious push into Latin America, they have the best guys to do it. Rey Mysterio Jr. and the Lucha Brothers. Everyone saw what the Lucha Brothers meant as a special attraction with their appearance in Arena Mexico from last week. Or 2 Fridays ago, we talked about it on last week's podcast. It was incredible. WWE would want to strike while the novelty of seeing the Lucha Brothers with the WWE or NXT logo is still strong. It's tough to spin up something meaningful in just a few months, but the pieces aren't going to fall in place like this. They've got everything they need for a strong Mexican pay-per-view event except a location. A stronger Latin America push would also explain why WWE TKO would be willing to go over the top for these two. That sort of move could have ramifications to the existing groups. And to be clear, no one is reporting that WWE is actually making a move to Latin America. This is just reasonable speculation. And I also think it makes sense. The Lucha Brothers had great moments in AEW and really memorable title wins. But they were always used as guys who could work with the top performers but not be the top performers themselves. A long-term Lucha Brothers might look questionable on an accounting actuarial table. Fénix has missed a lot of time in recent years with injuries and other maladies. Penta wrestles the same match 95% of the time. The first years of them will be more valuable than the last few years, no matter how long they're signed. And that it all makes sense to me. How you doing, J.K. Schwal, member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel? Nice to see you and welcome. I mean, it all makes sense. And are they going to try and do something with all the Mexican guys that they have, with all the Latinos that they have lined up? Will they try and do an incursion into Mexico? I mean, it does seem that way, right? Or is it going to be something like their incursions into India where they're going to try and it doesn't work out and then they just go off and fire everyone, right? Look, I cannot but sit here and think that this is a great idea for the Lucha Bros to move on, to try something else. This is what having multiple promotions to circulate between is for. You get stale in one place and you move on to another. Maybe it's just because I'm old and I've seen so many people benefit from a change of scenery that I'm like, this is all fine, but since since the discourse online is filled with so many children who have never experienced anything else than one promotion existing, their minds are melting right now. And they're going to see this as a huge grab from AEW, right? Now, don't get me wrong. That is going to be an underlying theme, and it should be perceived as such. Two guys who were there from the start. These are day oneers in AEW, right? Who were part of this tremendous tag team division that AEW had been promoting, not only promoting, but promising that it was going to be the best tag team division in the world, that the tag teams could main event shows and all that. And I look at that now and I think back at, the original Lucha Brothers matches and so on and so forth. And I'm like, man, this AEW company now, and everyone has to come to grips with this, is not the AEW that existed 5 years ago. And we have to stop going, and myself included, we have to stop telling ourselves that, we can bring the past back, we can, restore the feeling to a certain degree. But that company that started off grassroots doing open air press conferences with Conrad Thompson emceeing them and, every surprises showing up and having these pay-per-views and then John Moxley showing up out of nowhere. That company is done. It doesn't exist anymore. We have ourselves, contemporary AEW which is, I kind of adhere to the what a lot of people call it, which is kind of like WWE with better wrestling. That's essentially what it is. So, and you can see this just in this move here, where we're sticking to the Acclaimed and we are continuing to shove it down our throats and make sure that we understand that the Acclaimed are a big deal. Meanwhile, a legitimate great tag team and a force within the tag team division for a long time is just, yes, okay, we will not be renewing the contract. Because if Tony Khan really wanted to hang on to them, I'm sure he could. I am absolutely sure he could. I've read about reputational damage to AEW. Like I said, it's not the same company. And the reputational damage, this is where it's going to come from. It's going to come from children online and the bad faithers who would find any reason to shit on AEW regardless. So it's not even, reasonable, mature, well-balanced, I'm the poster boy, adults are going to see this for what it is. And we're just gonna accept it and move on and bemoan the fact that we won't be seeing the Lucha Brothers wrestle regularly on our TVs or our pay-per-views anymore. That's going to be a shame. And it's fair to wonder it's fair to wonder what WWE is going to do with the Lucha Brothers as well, and how well are they going to be pushed. Because look at what they do with their Latino talent right now. You know, everyone was so excited, and especially Andrade. Andrade was the most excited of us all to head the hell back to WWE, and look at what he's doing now. Not much. He's the speed champion. Look at the, they squirreled all the Latinos away into the LWO and Santos Escobar's group, right? And they were feuding with each other, and there's essentially two of them that broke out of that. Being Carlito, who's doing the Judgment Day nonsense as the dollar store Sami Zayn, and then Andrade, who's not, he was involved, but he's not deeply entrenched in it. And then, like they brought in, remember all the ballyhoo that was around the arrival of Dragon Lee? What the fuck has he been doing? Jack shit. Like, and this is not new. This is not something that I'm pointing fingers at. This is systematic within the company. This is why sometimes I'm like, how do people say that this company has changed so much when a lot of their behaviors or their long-standing traditions, let's put it that way, are still in place? Vince is gone, but we're still not pushing Latino talent. And look, and in all fairness, it's not as if Tony Khan has gotten behind the Lucha people on his roster, right? I mean, look, he's building up Hologram. That might be a whole other thing. Beast Mortos is getting some time on TV. No, this is new, But when has Commander ever won a match? Look at the booking of the Lucha Bros. Look at all the great. I mean, look at Roosh. Look at Dralistico. Look at all the great Lucha Libre talent that he has at his disposal, and he's, they're basically just bodies. When they could be doing something special, and WWE could be doing the exact same thing. So to me, the Lucha Brothers coming in is a strike on that front, and the other strike is that they're a tag team. What? Complaining about the AEW tag team division is one thing, but holy shit, WWE's. That's just a convoluted mess. That's just so, they're not exactly coming in a position of full confidence. Now, Penta has his catchphrase down though. The WWE fans love the catchphrases. You'll have everyone at the Cleveland Arena or wherever the hell, or in Minnesota next time for SummerSlam. They'll all be chanting Zero Miedo and doing the hand gesture. That'll get them over. That's the best way. And then they'll be able to print that on t-shirts. They'll sell little gloves. All sorts of merchandising opportunities for Penta El Zero Miedo. Oh, well, it's their decision. It's their choice, right? Regardless of, I'm not saying that I hope that their run doesn't work out for them. That I think is just mean-spirited and bad faith. But objectively, and looking at the history of this company and how they've treated Latino talent and tag teams, you have to admit these are two strikes against them. Are they going to be the ones to break that ceiling and punch? Maybe. Maybe. So let's move on from that. Let's have a little talk about Shane McMahon meeting Tony Khan, because that's something that surprised a lot of people. Again, let's go back a little bit in the timeline. Let's go back to in the timeline a little bit here. In late June 2024, there were rumors that started to go around speculating that Shane McMahon had sent out feelers to AEW for work. It seems the rumors started when Conrad Thompson, on an episode of one of his podcasts, I think it's the JR one, said that a mutual friend texted him out of the blue to say that it wasn't as crazy an idea. It wasn't as crazy an idea as one may think, the idea of Shane McMahon hanging out or doing stuff with AEW, since McMahon had reached out to AEW wrestlers to hypothetically discuss the idea. Interesting. Tony Khan told Dave Meltzer directly in the June 2024 2024 Observer newsletter that he had never met Shane McMahon. The quote is, "I've never met him or talked to McMahon in my life." There you go. On June 26th, Tony Khan, just a couple of days after the Observer, told Sports Illustrated that Shane would always be welcome in AEW. Here's the quote. "I heard the rumor he might be interested. I've never met Shane, but we have a lot of mutual friends. I have a lot of respect for him as an executive and a professional wrestler. Shane is always welcome in AEW." And we're all just blowing this off at this point. We're like, what nonsense. And maybe this has nothing to do with it directly, but I just want to throw this in here because it is interesting nonetheless. But on June 1st, PW Insider reported that Mercedes Moné ran into Shane McMahon at the airport. PWInsider.com has confirmed with multiple sources that AEW TBS and New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Women's Champion Mercedes Moné was seen this morning, July 1st, with Shane McMahon at LaGuardia Airport in New York City. We are told that each other were seen speaking on their way to their respective flights. One source, when PW Insider reached out to confirm whether the story was true, confirmed that they did have a conversation about AEW. There have been rumors of Shane McMahon's alleged interest in AEW in recent weeks, with President Tony Khan noting that he would be open to speaking with McMahon. So that stayed pretty much as such, stayed like that. And again, just like the few things going on. It all seems so happenstance and whatnot, right? It just seems all coincidental. And you think everything would just stay like that. But then on July 3rd, Mercedes Moné puts out her newsletter, and she addressed the situation in her newsletter, which is kind of wild. This is what the quote says. "After it all, by only the fates aligned, I walked into the airport, was in line by the bagel shop, when I suddenly looked up, and there he was, just as surprised as I was. My first day being a double title holder, and the first wrestler and former WWE superstar I see is Shane McMahon." Come on. If that isn't the universe working in divine timing, I don't know what else it could be. I've always loved Shane. When we locked eyes, we both kind of looked at each other like, "Is that you?" Our faces lit up, and we got to talking a bit before he boarded his flight. He gave me his number. The rest, as they say, is history, or maybe a mystery. Okay, so there's for something that may or may not be happening, there sure is a lot of stuff happening. a lot of people addressing things, right? So, after this, things started to die down until July 31st, just last week. It wasn't July 30, it was Wednesday, the day after I record the podcast, of course. Wrestle Talk tweeted a photograph of Tony Khan and Shane McMahon in a meeting room with the following caption: "A shot of Tony Khan meeting with Shane McMahon recently in Texas. This is wild." Fightful followed up this post by saying Shane McMahon is said to have met with Tony Khan on Monday to, quote unquote, discuss possibilities moving forward. The meeting was held in Arlington, Texas, where AEW is, of course, running a residency at the Esports Stadium until mid-August. On July 31st, same day, Shane McMahon issued a statement on Busted Open Radio. Yeah, Bully Ray read it. Here is the statement, quote, Tony and I were connected through a mutual friend and we had a great meeting. We talked about many things, but mostly about our shared love for the business and the rewards and challenges of working with family. I congratulated him on the 5-year anniversary of AEW and look forward to see how he evolves the business moving forward. On August 6th, then, like a week later, Tony Khan was on ESPN Radio and discussed the meeting. It goes like this, quote, well, as I understand, he's not doing anything with WWE, and I had a really nice visit with him. I had heard from a lot of people that he was interested in talking, and it had become, frankly, a big media story to the point where I was getting asked on the record questions about it, and I answered them, and just like I'll answer you now. I had never met him in advance of my first conversation with him. There was a lot of buzz about this, so I thought it would certainly be worth talking, and I have a lot of respect for him. I had never met him. We're making sure that we get it, Tony. I had never met him, but he seemed like a really nice guy. I sat down with him. He was fantastic. I really enjoyed talking to him, and he was a very smart person about wrestling, and I thought he was a great guy, and we have a lot of mutual friends, and we both happen to be in Dallas. Khan also noted that it was a mutual friend who put them in contact. He said that the picture that leaked online was taken by someone who just, quote unquote, busted in and took a picture. As an aside, Mercedes Moné claimed claimed responsibility for the photo. I don't know about the leak, but about the photo. So that's where we're at today, as of August 6, 2024, which is when we record the MrWarrenHayes podcast every Tuesday night. In fact, live, 7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you join us. What does Shane McMahon have to offer AEW? And I ask this earnestly. And you have thoughts, you have comments, let me know. But I'm going to let you know mine, because that's probably why you're here. I think Shane McMahon doesn't have much to offer AEW, quite frankly. Unless you're really into AEW becoming more and more a little WWE. If you're into that, that's what he has to bring, right? You know, I've seen people say, oh, he has such a good head for business. I'm like, really? Well, how? Why? How do you know? How do you know Shane McMahon is a great businessman? I have no proof of this. The guy worked for his dad's company for the majority of his adult life. Hell, he started at 15 years old in the merch warehouse, working for his dad. And all of the positions that he had in the company, they were all, you know, you can, just not unlike Stephanie, were all positions given because he was Vince's kid. I'm not saying he was bad at his job, but I also don't hear necessarily that he was all that great about it either. I don't know why people suddenly assume he's this great businessman. He wanted Vince to buy Pride. You remember that? You remember when Shane tried to spearhead a purchase of the MMA group Pride? That didn't quite work out. And as a performer, I don't want Shane on TV. I couldn't deal with Shane on TV back when I was still watching a lot of WWE. I was like, oh no, not this guy again. What is he gonna jumping off stuff? We've got more than enough. We got more than enough stuff of more than enough people doing that. We've got Darby. It's fine. I don't need Shane McMahon dropping off of things. I don't need his shitty working punches. I don't need his awkward ass promos. Does everyone forget that in his final run in WWE, his promos were just convoluted and he'd trip over himself? They were bad. Does no one remember this? Why would anyone want shit? There is an attachment to Shane McMahon by WWE fans that I do not conceive. I don't understand. I don't get it. That guy has go away heat for me. You know? He's cringe is what he is. And he's older than when he was, much older than when he was jumping off of shit. And people always remember this stuff. And Daddy's not around anymore to try and impress him. Like, why would he even do that? Like, I think of the idea of Tony Khan bringing in Shane McMahon, and all I can think of is shock value. Because don't get me wrong, if that were to happen, it would be the most talked about thing for days. It would be the craziest thing. A McMahon on AEW television. That would just be nuts. But that's the point, is that then after, what do you do with this? What do you do moving forward? What is the next step? Once you're done with the shock of the thing, what do you do with Shane? Because the shock wears off in about a week. And again, if this is always a strategy to say, well, we're going to get some WWE fans to start watching, you won't. It doesn't work that way. WWE fans will only watch WWE. They don't watch anything else. And they're not going to abandon you because Shane McMahon is on AEW. I would contend that current WWE fans, right, who point to the sky when Roman Reigns shows up, who sing along with Seth Rollins' tune, you know, who yeet. I would even go as far as to say that they don't know who Shane McMahon is outside of, he's one of Vince's kids, and that's that. They don't know anything. They don't know about the Nitro takeover. They don't know about the corporation, the corporate ministry. They don't know about Raw Underground. Bless them. But they don't. You think that everyone after SummerSlam going, oh, TC, oh yeah, baby, is going to turn to watch Shane McMahon, their dad, essentially a dad, show up on AEW TV? Come on. That's what I'm kind of fearful of. That Tony would go, oh, well, you know, this will pop a rating. And I hate to think that Tony is in this type of position now. Or that his mentality has come to this. That he would consider doing this. And I'm talking as if it's a done deal. Bear with me. We're going on the hypothetical that it would happen, right? I would hate to think that this is where Tony is at when thinking about his wrestling show. That this is how he's going to grow the audience, build an audience, right? By doing this kind of stuff. Look, I honestly hope Shane McMahon stays as far away as possible from AEW, right? And I see it in the chat, right? It's like, oh, he could work on you know, from a business standpoint. But what does he bring to the table? Again, I do not understand. Like his he was involved in creative backstage, right? He was involved in creative. Don't forget, this was a guy, the last Royal Rumble that he tried to get some input in, or the last Royal Rumble he had some input in, he was trying to place it so he'd be like in the final four, right? Do you remember this? And Vince vetoed it and told him to get the hell out of the building. Do you remember this? Why is everyone acting like having Shane around is like this brilliant coup? And oh yes, absolutely. What does he bring to the table? And his non-WWE business ventures, there's this weird broadband internet that he set up like in a region of China. I don't even understand exactly, like based out of Colorado, okay? Like his offices are in Colorado, supplying broadband internet to a rural region of China. And I'm not making this up. The company's called Broadband China Incorporated or something to that effect. You've never heard about it. You do some research online for it, and basically all you can find is the business listing in the I think it's in Colorado Springs. You find the business reading in the Colorado Springs business listings. It's like there's nothing. There's no reviews. There's nothing. And he's on these boards. And it's like, okay. Sure. What does Shane have to bring? I asked the question with a certain amount of earnestness. What does Shane McMahon bring to the table? I do not understand what it is. I really don't. Since we're talking about WWE real quick, WWE released a press release today. It's not the same thing, Warren. Yes, I know, Warren. Well, then why did you mix it up, Warren? I don't know. I'm an idiot, Warren. Okay. Then I had a press release today, August 6th, which is when we record the show. I said that multiple times already. Saying that NXT will debut on the CW with back-to-back live arena shows starting Tuesday, October 1st at the Allstate Arena in Rosemont, Illinois. And then October 8th, the following Tuesday, in St. Louis at the Enterprise Center. I mean, it's a lot of chit chat. The entire press release. I'm not necessarily going to go through it completely. Maybe a couple of things that I did zero in on. The press release also mentions that the live arena shows will feature special appearances by WWE superstar CM Punk in Chicago and WWE superstar Randy Orton in St. Louis, using the home turf stuff. And funny, because they don't mention any other. They don't mention any other NXT talent in this press release. Just the two main roster dudes. But did they name Trick Williams? No. Did they mention Roxanne Perez? No. Did they mention Tavion Heights? No. Did they mention their current champion, Ethan Page? Of course they probably did, right, Warren? No. Did they mention Lexis King? No. They mentioned no one else. Stop asking. I think that's interesting. And I took there's something else that shocked me in this press release. And like I said, there's not they talk about, when the tickets go on sale and that they're beginning their 5-year agreement with the CW, blah, blah, blah. And then they say that NXT has aired weekly since 2012 and features the brightest young talent in sports entertainment. Listen to this. Nearly 90% of the nearly 90% of the participants in last year's WrestleMania were developed under the NXT banner. 90% of the participants of last year's WrestleMania were developed under the NXT banner. Now, last year would mean WrestleMania 39, correct? Let's have a little exercise here. Let me pull this up here for a second, okay? And if you have the benefit of video here, oh boy, are you ever gonna benefit? Are you ever gonna benefit? Because we're gonna look at this together. I'm pulling up the card for last year's WrestleMania 39, and we're gonna see if this 90% number holds true. Okay? And again, like they said over here, like they said, 90% of the participants in last year's WrestleMania. Participants. Okay? Let's see here. First of all, okay, let's talk about other on-screen personnel, okay? Participants. Let's be fair and open. The Miz? No. Snoop Dogg? No. Michael Cole? No. Corey Graves? Yeah, okay. Titus O'Neil? Yeah, okay. Spanish commentators? No. Bad Bunny? No. Mike Rome? No. Samantha Irvin? No. Referees? Maybe. Maybe Jessica Carr? And Daphne LaShawn? Byron Saxton? Okay, yes. Kathy Kelly? No. Oh, well, yes, she did come up in NXT, right? Kyla Braxton? No. Peter Rosenberg? No. Booker T? No. Wade Barrett? Yes. So maybe on this side, sure. How different was the list for night 2? Jessica Carr, I don't know who these referees are. Dan Engler, TNA. And then he went to WWE where he's on the Raw brand. No. It's practically all the same people, right? The Miz, Snoop Dogg, pretty much all the same people on night 2. So let's see. 90%. Let's get to the cards. Austin Theory. Okay, I honestly don't know. Austin Theory, I have a feeling that his, look, the guy had a career before coming into WWE, right? Look at all of this. Wrestled in Mexico, Progress. But I guess you could, you can't, can you say that he was developed there? Maybe. If you want to stretch it a bit. John Cena, absolutely not. The Street Profits, sure, yes. Braun Strowman, no. He's an FCW guy. Ricochet, no, absolutely not. Chad Gable and Otis. Chad Gable, no. Otis, maybe, I guess. Viking Raiders, no. They were in NXT, but they were not developed there. Seth Rollins, no. Logan Paul, absolutely not. Trish Stratus, no. Lita, no. Becky Lynch, okay. Although she also had, it also depends where you want to do the cutoff, because she had an extensive independent career as well. Maybe. We're not close to 90% yet. Bayley, I'd say yes. Dakota Kai, maybe, but these are all people who had independent careers and were brought into the system. When I say all of these, I mean Becky, Bayley, Dakota. When you're talking about were developed under NXT, I'm talking about homegrown talent. I'm talking about people who really came up exclusively through that system. Io Sky, no, absolutely not. Rey Mysterio, no. Dominic, no. Rhea, I think Rhea is, to a degree, an NXT success story. And so is Charlotte. Charlotte, absolutely. Pat McAfee, no. I mean, it's Pat McAfee, no. The Miz, we already been over this. Kevin Owens, no. Sami Zayn, no. They were stalwarts on NXT. But these guys were two of the best wrestlers in the world at that time. So, no, they were not developed under the NXT name. And the Usos are FCW guys. Brock Lesnar, no. Omos, no. Ronda Rousey, no. Shayna Baszler, sure, yes. I'd give him that without hesitation. Liv Morgan, was Liv Morgan ever in NXT? That's a good question, right? Why did I call her Morgan? I can't spell. What am I doing? Morgan. I'm too excited. Okay, she did come up NXT. All right. So, don't look at my show notes. So, I agree with Liv Morgan. Raquel Rodriguez, sure. Natalia, no. Shotzi, again, brought into NXT, but she had a solid indie career. I'd have a tendency to say no. Chelsea Green, no. Sonya Deville, yeah. Yes. I would say yes for Sonya. Gunther, no. Sheamus, no. Bianca Belair, yes. Asuka, not developed. Asuka was a stalwart of the Joshi scene. No. Snoop Dogg and The Miz, that's nonsense. Edge, no. Finn Balor, no. Again, not unlike Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Finn Balor was not developed in NXT. Roman Reigns, no. Yes. Just a little bit. But, he... FCW, sure. And Cody Rhodes, absolutely not. So we're not even close. Oh, you're right about Chad Gable. You're absolutely right. I forgot about the American Alpha Tag Team. You are correct. So we'll give him Chad Gable. But you see, we're not close to 90%. That's not a 90% total. If you want to stretch the definition like I've been attempting to do, it's like, it's not the same thing. Anyway, good for ultimately, if we go back to the press release, look, good on them for starting to hype this up and make it feel important, make it feel like a big deal. And those first two shows in Chicago and in St. Louis, they're going to feel big, and then it's going to be back to the warehouse. Like it's going to be, right? Are they abandoning the warehouse for, are they going to abandon the warehouse for this new CW deal? I don't think so. I really don't. But yeah, essentially, it's a good idea if they're deciding to put all of this. If they're deciding to put all of this together, they want to make a big deal out of it. It's going to make the partners happy, at the gate, scoring some big points. Because don't forget, the strategy is there. They want to drag people from their watching habit over on one network to a completely different network. That's something different that they have to do. NXT is not NXT, but the CW, is trying to rebrand with doing more sports-oriented programming. So, it all fits in. It's a good timing. I think, it's not the CW we used to know. This ain't your grandma's CW. So it's good. It's good that it's good that they're setting everything up here to to make the maximum impact possible with their change to the CW and making sure that people come around and watch it as well. So there you go. So starting this October 1st, and doesn't it just so happen that we have a Title Tuesday edition of Dynamite, right? On that October, is it the October 1st show? Didn't AEW announce October 2nd? No, it's the October 8th. Sorry. It is the October 8th one. So we're going to have we're doing a little throwback, a little NXT head-to-head here on the Randy Orton show. Very interesting. Okay. That I think we're good. We're good when in regards to that. Now we're going to just quickly, as much as possible, go over the revelation that we had this week in the Wrestling Observer that Britt Baker was suspended and fined by AEW for a little backstage brouhaha because she got into an altercation, an incident. It's not as much. I don't want to put words. I don't want to use the wrong words here. It's not an altercation as much as an incident that involved MJF and Alicia Atout, the newest backstage interviewer for AEW, who just so happens to be, if you're not in the know, MJF's girlfriend. The news came from the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Ibu of Wrestle Purist also confirming this via social media. Fightful also confirmed some details. Dave Meltzer reported that Britt, who just returned from a lengthy absence due to injuries and a medical issue, was either suspended for, quote, either 1 or 2 weeks and fined by the company's disciplinary committee, unquote. It's unknown when the suspension is up, but Baker was absent from this past Wednesday's Dynamite. The details are light. Meltzer said that something happened at the 250th episode of Dynamite on July 17, where Baker allegedly said something about MJF, which Atout heard. She then told MJF, who then confronted Baker about it. Ibu added that the incident happened right after MJF's match with Will Ospreay that opened the show. And Fightful reported that MJF punched a wall after the match, after all of this came down. Fightful also reported that Baker, quote unquote, exercised frustration about MJF within the women's locker room. The outlet also reported that they had heard that there was a confrontation between Atout and Baker, and that Ospreay even talked to Baker at one point. The conflict was apparently due to unresolved issues in the past, and that, according to Fightful, the two former friends, being MJF and Britt, had a falling out at some point over the last year. If you've been following like little tidbits and stuff, you'll know that Adam Cole recently, in his message to his Twitch community, said that he was moving out of his home and was doing the move alone. I think the overall understanding is that Britt and Adam Cole are no longer together, that something happened, and that MJF being very, very close. The MJF and Britt were indeed friends, but so are Cole and MJF, and clearly MJF took offense to whatever's going on here, and this kind of situation can create frictions between people, right? Create issues where they're, challenge friendships, and they don't all survive in these types of scenarios where separations and divorces occur. So we can assume that, there's a part of this that had something to play, and this had a part to play in all of this. AEW HR then launched an investigation in an effort to settle things quickly and talk to people on July 24th. Meltzer was unsure as to what Tony Khan's involvement was, as, quote unquote, everyone was attempting to keep this under wraps. I don't know what more to add to this, apparently, look, I can't help but feel bad for Britt to a degree. And I don't blame Atut for doing what she did either. If from my understanding, Britt essentially had an issue with the fact that MJF got an hour for his match, right? And she expressed discontent in that regard. I don't know the specifics. No one really does. And that's when Alicia Atut, who just happened to be in the women's locker room, because that makes sense that she would be there, started texting Max as Britt was talking, so that Max would see all of this as the match ended, and then this all led to the confrontation. I mean, look, wrestlers and TV time is the thing, right? Like, that is the thing that everyone just, they give their own blood and sometimes they do to get more television time. So I don't think it's anything out of the ordinary that she was complaining about that. And I say complaining, maybe she just said, well, here we go again. Max gets an hour on TV while the rest of us scrubs, kind of thing. But then again, that's also how it works in pro wrestling, period, right? Where it's like, the top people, the draws, the stars, they kind of get run of the place. That is just how it always worked. It wasn't different when CM Punk was around. CM Punk wasn't going around saying, let's distribute the time evenly around. And no. What are we doing? Like, this is nothing new. And I think it's okay to vent. And I think Britt must have known at the same time what she's doing. She must have known Atut was right there. Like, this had to be a conscious thing on her part too, where she's like, and maybe it was, I'm just thinking about this right now. Maybe this turned out to be a test more than anything else. Maybe to a degree, she was like testing Atut to see, well, look, if I talk shit about her man, what is she going to do? And I don't blame Alicia for telling her dude, right? She looks out for her guy, just like MJF's going to look out for her, right? That's how it goes. But maybe this was a test to see, okay, how far are we going to go with this? How far is this going to go? Or maybe do it in front of everyone so that everyone sees that you got to be careful around Atut because, she's going to go snitch or whatever. Maybe. And maybe this all got really heated because she did not expect her to be doing some live texting or whatever. And she didn't expect Max to run in hot and, start getting pissed off. I'm not saying Max went into the locker room. That's not what I'm saying. Arrive, like come in with a head of steam, being angry. Man, I don't know if I'm making sense, but this could be a lot of things. This really could be a lot of things. So I don't know. And look, we know that Britt has a tendency to get things reported on her that don't paint her in the best light backstage, But, it's like, everyone, I think everyone is okay not everyone is okay. I think the situation warrants very normal reactions. You have wrestlers complaining that they don't have enough TV time. You have the girlfriend of the guy that we're complaining about basically telling him, well, this is what's going on. And he gets hot about it. And he gets especially hot because it's, one of his good friends' exes who's talking shit about him. Who he probably already has maybe he has a little beef with them, Then he comes in and he, kicks up a storm. Like maybe, that, like it all sort of makes sense to me. It all just sort of connects. I don't know about you, but it all sort of connects. It's hard to put blame, There's nothing unusual that happened here in a wrestler complaining about TV time. Now, the altercation that led to a suspension where MJF didn't get anything on top of that, like I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I don't know what the thing here is. I really couldn't tell you. But if I'm Britt, I'm a little annoyed. I'm a little pissed off because she built that locker room. She kept that place together. Let's just keep this one. I don't think there's much more to add. Let's just keep this one on the back burner, but because there might be something that comes back eventually to haunt us. But as it stands right now, this is pretty much all we can get out of it. And like I said, for some bizarre reason, it all kind of makes sense. Before we get into the big SummerSlam review, and you don't want to miss it, couple of little contract news tidbits. On August 2nd, we learned that Michael Cole has signed a new deal with WWE this spring. He was interviewed. He was interviewed by the Ringer, someone else. The length of the deal wasn't disclosed, but Cole will remain the voice of WWE for quote unquote the foreseeable future. So good for him. I mean, he is the voice of an entire generation of WWE listeners and watchers and whatnot. So I'm good for, and frankly, I'm old enough to remember when Cole started and everyone hated him. I mean, universally hated the guy. Did not care. And throughout the years, he has improved. And he has shown moments where he can be, when there were moments, wasn't it the UK title tournament? Do you remember that? Wasn't it that where wasn't he on commentary for that? And, and Vince wasn't there to blow things in his ears. So, and he just went, and everyone was impressed. It was like, wow, okay, this guy's great. He's very good. Was it the UK title tournament, or was it the CWC? The Cruiserweight Classic. I think it was the UK title stuff. So good for him. Yeah, I mean, like Chad says, where would he go? It's like otherwise, and there's one other place. They don't need him. And it would be very strange because I think he is so much the voice of a product and of a feeling, of a vibe. It would completely change how AEW would feel. Completely. It would be so strange. Becky Lynch released an Instagram post a couple of days ago. August 4. There you go. She releases an Instagram post basically thanking everyone for watching her biography episode on Sunday. And this was the quote, the caption that accompanied the photograph. It's been a hell of a career. Being the man for all of you was an honor. Being the mom for her is a privilege. Thank you for watching my bio on A&E. And a lot of people got very shocked and anxious and panicked about it. It's like, oh my God, is she retiring? I don't think she's retiring. I would be very surprised if she was retiring. You'll remember months ago, I want to say it was this spring. It was after May, I guess, sometime in May. It was reported that Becky was not extending her contract and would be taking a leave of absence from WWE. That's when she that's when she dropped the title to Liv, right? She's looking for a long time. So I don't think she's retiring. I think she's emphasizing the fact that she's not extending her contract. She's saying was in the past tense because that's it. Like she's playing off the fact that she's not the man anymore, at least not now. And that's about it. I don't think this is a sign of retirement. I don't think she's done. I think she'll eventually come back. And safe money would be her returning to WWE. I think that's the safe bet. I'm not a betting man, but that would be a safe bet. And I think when you do safe bets, you don't win a lot of money. It's the riskier bets. So don't bet any money. Well, you'll win it back, but not a lot. Also, don't take Warren's betting advice. Just putting it that way. Basically her contract status seems to be pretty much the same. Mark Henry's son Jacob has signed with WWE. He announced Thursday night that he has signed with the promotion. He appeared at the Remix Rumble with his father, Mark, and announced that he had signed with WWE with news with WWE saying that quote unquote is going to come out in the next couple of days. Oh, I wonder how WWE PR enjoyed that. Him scooping them. I'm pretty sure he wasn't excited. I'm pretty sure they weren't excited about that. He probably got his first email from Legental. So I don't know. Good for him. He seems to be a strong boy. We'll see what's next. So keep your eyes on that. And the Daniel Garcia contract status is also an ongoing thing. With recently us hearing that he is most likely to re-sign with AEW. It was Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez. They gave an update on the situation on Wrestling Observer Radio on August 1st. Alvarez said that while nothing is official, people in AEW will believe he will most likely resign. Meltzer agreed, said that he had been hearing something similar while giving pause, though, that it's still not a done deal. We still don't know the exact date of Garcia's contract expiration. But we've speculated heavily here on the Mr. Warren Hayes show that he's going back. And they keep dropping his name. The minute they stop talking, using the name of Daniel Garcia on Dynamite, then there'll be smoke to that fire of him leaving. Not the smoke to the fire of him staying. There's two fires that could burn, essentially. Trent Beretta recently posted a photograph. I think it was on August 1st as well. He posted a photo from his hospital room on Thursday, saying that his neck fusion surgery has to be it has to be redone, I guess. He wrote, quick little American neck surgery. Turns out I wrestled so hard that 2 of the screws from my neck fusion broke. Very cool, very tough. Screws have been replaced. Next, I will be doing revenge. I think that's nuts. That's nuts. You've got screws in your neck and they snap, they break. That's crazy. So, no timetable exactly on his return, but he will be out for a while. We had talked about when he did get injured. We thought it sucked, and it still sucked because he was on the cusp of the biggest push of his career. There's nothing like a little injury return to fire the base back up. I think we can get back into step with that. And then Jacob Fatu, well, there's an injury scare going on. Spotted in a walking boot after SummerSlam. We're going to talk about that, of course, in a very short while. But he appeared to have injured his right leg after diving onto Cody Rhodes from the top rope to commentary. It looked pretty real. It looked pretty serious. He was told to sell the leg, but to which degree? Well, that's a whole other thing. He was seen in some on an Instagram page of the Haroon twins. I have no idea who these people are. Who are the Haroon twins? This is the kind of stuff that sometimes I'm like, is it just me? Am I disconnected? Do I just not? Okay, the guys have 1.2 million followers on Instagram, and are they soccer players? There's a lot of pictures of them at the beach. Are they wrestlers? Did they do a tryout? Because I see them with WWE stuff. I don't know who they are. I'm sorry. I do not know who the Haroon twins are. They have a YouTube channel. I'm not watching that right now. Anyway, Fatu was in this picture and he was wearing a walking boot, a medical one, not something to go hang in. No, it's not the girls. It's not. They're dudes. Chad is wondering if they're the blonde twins. No, I know exactly who we're talking about. I don't know who the Haroon twins are, but Fatu has a walking boot on, so there's probably something there. He was probably very pissed off that injury happened to him, just as he was on the cusp of his he too the biggest push of his career, right? So there you go. All right. So that'll do it for our news and our news and contract news, our little news bits that we've been doing for the past couple of weeks. I like this little segment. Hope you guys do too. Keeps us all refreshed and in the know of what's going on. All right, are you ready? Are you ready? It is time to break down the Summer Jam. SummerSlam, WWE SummerSlam Cleveland. SummerSlam Cleveland. I think we're going to see more and more of this, right? They're going to be adding the name of the city into the title of the show. SummerSlam Cleveland. That happened on August 3rd, 2024 from the Cleveland Browns Stadium in Cleveland. A lot of Cleveland going around. Attendance, what I don't remember what they announced 57,000, whatever, and we all suspected that it was maybe a little over the top. We're hanging around the 55,858 when you start not counting, all staff and whatnot, everything with a heartbeat. I mean, it's a tremendous attendance, don't get me wrong. Like, that's huge. But that's the business of WWE these days. It's huge. It is absolutely huge. In regards to the show itself, I'm going to tell you, this show represents everything I dislike about North American pro wrestling. Okay, this is the personification. This is the avatar of how I feel when I don't like something that happens in North American professional wrestling. This was it. So I'm telling you out the gate, okay? If you're coming in here to for someone to validate for you that SummerSlam this year was great and tremendous, you're in the wrong spot, because this is not what you're going to get. Because this show provided countless amounts of annoyances and grievances and quibbles that really hampered my enjoyment of this show, because it did not feel like a wrestling show. When we're going to be done, and I'm going to try and stay as calm and as level as possible. I'm not going to sit here and shake my fists at the camera and scream to the clouds, "This is awful. This sucked. This was awful." There will be moments where I'm going to get heated, but I want to reassure you that I feel like everything is as level as it can in my head. That I've thought through this probably too much for a wrestling show in general, and especially one which I didn't think was very good. But I did think through this quite a bit, and I feel like when it's going to be done, it will be a window to my mind when it comes to understanding what I mean when there are things in pro wrestling I don't like. When I'm doing the Dynamite review, when I'm reviewing any other show, there's things where I sort of gloss over quickly and I say, oh, well, I didn't like this because that is... This, I believe, encapsulates these thoughts perfectly. Like, it's going to be a museum piece. Like, bookmark this podcast at this very timestamp to return to this whenever you're confused as to, well, why did Warren like this or not, or whatever. And it all hinges, I realized, ultimately on this unbearable understanding that WWE and a lot of modern fans have in regards to what a wrestling story is. What a story in pro wrestling is. Because you often hear me talk about it, I love me some in-ring storytelling, and then people will go, well, look, they're telling a story in the ring, but yes, but that's not what I mean. I don't mean, bad acting and lines being exchanged in the middle of a stadium where there's 55,000 people. That's not what I mean when I'm talking about stories. I'm talking about the physical struggle, the sport, the tale that you're spinning through physical prowess, through athletics, through putting together a fake fight. That's the story I want to see. And I don't mind stories in the broader sense where, there's a yarn being developed around a match, because a good story will absolutely enhance a match. It will make it more compelling, more interesting. But the story should never come to the expense of the match. I watch pro wrestling to watch matches. If the story enhances the match, that's perfect. But it should not be a hamper. It should not ruin the flow of a match, of the story that should be told, which is the in-ring story, told by two wrestlers or four wrestlers, whatever, people in the ring telling a story. But we've got to understand that the stories now have this, we've come to understand and accept for a lot of fans, or not even accept, they're like presented this by WWE, and this is by saying this is the way we do things. This is the way that wrestling is done. That stories now have to have scenes and monologues and, exposition. You need things hammered over your head. And that's not a pro wrestling story. That's not how you tell stories in matches. This is something else. WWE has grown an audience where they need to have this stuff hammered across their heads. No, there's no subtlety. There's no true artistry that is conveyed by wrestlers. They have to always dumb it down. I've said for years that WWE thinks that their audience are idiots in the way they treat them. And people, once Vince was gone, it's like, oh, well, no, it's not that anymore. And yet, I have Rhea Ripley in the opening match, dislocating her shoulder, quote, air quotes. And she's screaming to the camera, it popped out. And I'm like, yes, I fucking get it. I know. I understand. You know why I understand? Because I'm not a moron. So they still think their audience is morons. But they need now it's like we need these stories, these yarns to be weaved into the match. It's not even weaved. They're like roadblocks that you have to go around. There's a nice flow. You're driving, you're going down the highway of this match, and the road is great, and you're hitting all the turns, and you're not hitting a single red light. Then all of a sudden, there's a big construction site just as you're coming up, and you have to go around it. That's what these stories feel like. That's how these stories felt like, and how they feel like in general. And this is not necessarily just a WWE thing. SummerSlam, like I said, is the representation, the avatar of it. But this is not just a WWE problem in and about itself. We have to have these stories, this great storytelling. They keep calling it cinema. Oh, it's cinema. It's so good. It's like a TV show. And watch a fucking TV show. Go watch a TV show. Leave me with my pro wrestling. Leave me alone. Pro wrestling is the only medium that desperately wants to be something else. It wants to be comedy, it wants to be drama, it wants to be music, it wants to be all sorts of things, except pro wrestling. And after a couple of matches tonight, Saturday night, we are so very close to Vince's vision of doing wrestling without having the wrestling matches. We are so close. I saw things on Saturday. I was like, am I sure that Vince is gone? I know he is. I was being facetious to myself. But there are some things where I'm like, we're so close to Vince's vision. For these stories that I keep hearing about, it's cinema. These are stories that wouldn't hold water in any film or any TV series or even a reputable podcast. These stories are all bad. They're contrived. poorly active? Like, I beg anyone who thinks the love triangle of Rhea and Liv and Dominic, who think that it's cool, to watch anything else, or anyone trying to explain to me what CM Punk's bracelet lore is and how you can be attached to objects, to watch anything else. A real show. And stop telling me that these are the greatest stories. And it's so good. So well done. They're corny. And they get in the way of a wrestling match. Then it seems like a lot of fans are okay with it because they watch the thing happen in front of them that completely ruins a wrestling match, and they just gobble it up and they said, oh, it's great, it's cinema. It's not cinema, it's pro wrestling. It's so tiresome to hear wrestling talk these days be about things that have nothing to do with wrestling. People talk around everything except the matches. But you know what I think it is? Here's what I think, and again, I want to emphasize, I don't mind stories, just don't let them ruin the flow of a match. Don't let them become something that will impede a wrestling match. And that's what these stories do in WWE. And I think it has a lot to do with insecurity. Why people call this cinema. Why people say, oh, these stories are great and so on and so forth. I think it has to do with insecurity. Insecurity from people who just are embarrassed deep down inside to like pro wrestling. Because pro wrestling has always been poo-pooed on. It's always been considered the lowest form of entertainment. And people are just like, they're latching on to things which aren't the wrestling because they're able to show that there's more to wrestling than just wrestling, and then they feel better about it. It's like, yeah, there's drama in my things. There's spooky people in my things too, you know? So they're able to feel cool about it. Then they're like, yeah, now it feels cool. I'm cool. Spoiler alert, pro wrestling has never been cool. Never been cool. It's always been dorky. And I think if more people came to grips with that, I think pro wrestling discourse would improve 1,000-fold. People want to feel better about wrestling because they're insecure about watching wrestling. What else could it be? How else can you explain that people come out to vehemently attack people, and I mean seriously attack people who didn't like SummerSlam? There are people in my circles who have had people wish upon them that they try to conceive a child and fail because they didn't like the SummerSlam. What is it then if it is not insecurity? And why would you be doing this regardless? Attacking people defending SummerSlam, which is a product of the biggest wrestling company of all time. A $1 billion company, corporation. People somehow feel the need to come out swinging to defend it. They're doing fine, my dude. They're great. They are officially too big to fail. They don't need you coming out swinging here. They really don't. Why are they doing this? What else could it be than insecurity? Insecurity and making what they love be a part of their identity, which is something I don't, what's the term I'm looking for? Parasocial relationships. They've developed this relationship with WWE that becomes a part of their identity. So if WWE does something wrong, or WWE cannot do anything wrong, because if they do something wrong, it reflects poorly on them because they made the judgment call to completely invest themselves into this faceless corporation, right? So they feel personally attacked when, no, SummerSlam stunk. No, it did not. They feel personally attacked. They want so much validation that the thing they like is good. Not everyone is going to like everything you like. And that's fine. And it's not a reflection on you. You are an entirely whole human being that does not need to have your identity 100% associated with a faceless corporation. Move on. What an intro. Excuse me. 7 matches on this. 7 matches. 7 matches on this show. No multi-man matches, multi-person matches. No triple threats or, quadruple threats. Fatal 4-ways. None of that. Ladder matches. 7 straight up matches. But interference in all matches except one, which stunk. Let's be honest. There 7 matches, and only one match had no interference, no nonsense, no one running in, no one distracting, no one throwing a chair, nothing. One. You think that's good? I sat here a couple of months ago tearing about, was it Double or Nothing, AEW? That had interference on practically every match as well. I was like, this doesn't make sense. This sucks. I'm coming right back. I was like, this is nonsense. This sucks. And the levels of interference that some of these matches have, it just throws. It's a completely different loop. Oh my God! They took the time to introduce Joe Tessitore. I think that's how you pronounce it, to the WWE universe, because they said that he will be joining the Raw broadcast team on the September 2 edition of Raw. So Michael Cole was there to welcome him, and well, there you go. Just as simple as that. That was his debut. That was speculated, but it was announced officially. Oh man, the commercials. Can we talk about the commercials real quick? I think we can, because it's my show. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I feel like my computer's been infested with pop-up ads, with the amount of commercials and ads and special offers and paid for skits, and everyone's drinking Prime, and there's a Prime car, and there's the Prime logo, and then there's the Prime hydration station, and then there's the turnbuckles, and then there's more shit in the ring. Do you remember when they said, "Oh no, we're just gonna put the Prime logo in the middle of the ring, but we're not gonna saturate our ring with logos"? You remember when they said? And I want to make sure that everyone understands. It doesn't bother me. It does not bother me if the that they're putting ads in the ring. I watch Japanese pro wrestling. This has been a thing for a while. It does not bother me. I'm blind to it, actually. But when you see that coupled with the ads in the upper left-hand corner, just appearing there and standing like for Valorant, right? For a while there was that. And then you have the LED boards pushing ads. And then between the matches you have commercials, and you come back, and then you have the WWE D-listers doing Manscaped commercials, right? You've got Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews rubbing each other's heads or whatever. And then Otis and Maxine Dupree come in and they do comedy because Otis is hairy and fat. And there's just so much overload for these commercials. It was bonkers to me. It's been nuts how many commercials this show has been. And I know they said, oh, we're going to try new advertising possibilities. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Then country music superstar Jelly Roll does a song. I think Jelly Roll, if I remember the lore, because I'm not too sure, because I can't be interested in everything. There's no use. Not everything interests me. And wasn't Jelly Roll like he was a rapper and the rap game didn't work, so he turned to country? Wasn't it something like that? And that's not necessarily an issue. Like, I don't mind if you pivot. It's fine. You'll find your niche, but it sort of comes across as a guy who was desperate to make it, Yeah, I guess, kind of like Kid Rock, Chad is right. What should we start with? Let's start with the main event. Let's do that. Let's start with the main event. WWE Undisputed title. Cody Rhodes successfully retained against Solo Sikoa. They do this really long entrance for Cody to start things off, right? And I'm like, is he retiring? Like, they're doing, like, it seems sentimental, and he's hugging people, and he's got his dog, and they say like Pharaoh's not going to be he's not going to be traveling with Cody. This is his last appearance. I'm like, how many appearances has the dog made? Like on Raw is what I'm saying, or WWE. How many appearances has the dog made? It's been a travel companion. Okay. Anyway, so Cody's retiring. It came across like that. I was like, this is so weird. And then the big surprise that Arn Anderson is there. And he started talking about how, you're going to do this, kid. I'm like, my God, he's just fighting Solo Sikoa. Like, no one is buying that Solo Sikoa is beating Cody Rhodes. What are we doing here? It's such nonsense. He says, you got other friends, you've got influence and you've got other friends and they're coming to help out. Don't worry, they're on their way. And I'll be honest, I kind of bit there and I was like, is he referring to AEW people? And we chatted about it in the Discord when it happened, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. Link is in the description. We were talking about it, and we were like, Ricky Starks, who else could be coming in? It's like, well, the Hardy Boys were rumored to have had talks with WWE this week. Oh, interesting. But then I sort of went, well, it could also just be Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, which has absolutely turned out to be. So, We try to make it exciting for ourselves. What do you want from me? And then he does and you could tell Solo doesn't have the confidence from WWE, from The Office, right? Because his entrance, which is probably the most important thing in WWE, his entrance music, his presentation is so very ordinary and flat. Right? You're like, nah, this is just a guy. He's not the guy. He's just another dude. He comes across as just another dude. There's nothing special about him. Like, this has never been a top guy, right? But look, let's cut to the chase. The match stunk. The match was very bad. And this is despite Cody Rhodes being terrific. Like, Cody Rhodes is a terrific pro wrestler. And somehow this match managed to even drag Cody Rhodes down, which is something. Good job, everyone involved. And Cody wins. But what's next for Cody? And I've been asking myself this question ever since he won at WrestleMania. It's like, okay, well, what's coming up next? You know? And I don't know what's coming up next for him. What's his next challenge? What's his next thing? I don't think Cody Rhodes' run has been very good. Do you? Like, I'm not talking about necessarily match quality. I'm talking about interest, buzz, big main event. Been very bland, you know? It's like, and his, you know, look, he wants to emulate his dad, or not emulate, but, you know, he wants to pay homage to his father so much. There's nothing like paying Dusty Rhodes the ultimate tribute by proving that, you know, as a world champion, you're very boring and all of your charm comes in the chase. That's exactly Dusty. You couldn't have a more Dusty representation. And I think this is where we're at with Cody, where it's like, you know, his path to the belt is what made him cool, exciting, compelling. But what did he have? He had a couple of matches against AJ Styles, right? Which were good, right? Don't forget. Don't get me wrong. I loved the matches. I thought one of them was great. I sat here and told you, was it the one at, what was the pay-per-view before Money in the Bank? Not the Saudi show. I don't remember. It sort of bunches together. There was one that he had against AJ Styles, which was tremendous, right? Clash at the Castle. Was that it? I think that was the one. Thank you, chat. But I thought, I sat here and I told you this will probably be one of the best WWE matches of the year. This will, unquestionably. It was great. It was a great wrestling match. But AJ Styles in 2024 is not perceived as a true top guy. He's a transitioner. He's a transition challenger. He's not a real top guy. And what does he do after that? He feuds with the Timu bloodline, full of guys who are not championship material. You know, Solo, the Tongans. None of these people are top guys. And what he's doing, Cody, here is he's keeping this bloodline story warm for Roman to return. That's what he's been doing. Like, this has not been a good title run. He's an accessory to the bloodline to just keep it breathing, right? And Roman is back, and he's going to get his title back eventually, I'm sure. You know, this is what I think is going to happen, right? I think they're going to do a Bloodline War Games at Survivor Series. And you can be sure, I am throwing in my hat here. Roman's team is going to be him, Cody, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, and, Yeet. I think that's what it's going to be against Solo, the Gorillas of Destiny, Jacob Fatu, and Tala Tonga. Those are. I'm willing to bet that that's what's going to happen. That's what they're going to be doing with Cody. He's still going to be under the specter of this bloodline story that really only involves Roman Reigns, Anyway, back to Cody. Who's next? Okay, who's next? Let's say we're not doing the bloodline war games. Who's next? Seth Rollins and CM Punk. They're going to be involved in things. Seth Rollins is being demoted to fighting Bronson Reed, it seems. The CM Punk guy, he's still not done with Drew. And Drew, besides, he's in the orbit of the consolation prize and not the undisputed title. Shinsuke? Or Gunther? Would they be so bold as to do Gunther and have him fight Cody, but they're both world champions? Would they do that? Do you imagine how silly it would be to have Cody being introduced in a match against Gunther? And Samantha Irvin screams into a microphone, undisputed world champion, undisputed WWE champion, Cody Rhodes. When there's a disputed, when his title is absolutely disputed because there's a world champion standing right across from him. No, there's no clear path for Cody to do something exciting because WWE's not building anyone else. It's like we often say, it's just like, okay, who's next? Who could we put in here to fill a gap? No one was buying that AJ Styles had a chance, a modicum of a chance to win the titles, but at least we got some good matches out of it, which was to be expected. I don't know. Solo Sikoa, man. This is what we got. This is what we got for the main event of SummerSlam in the Cleveland Browns Stadium in front of 55,000 people. We had Solo Sikoa. Chat says Cena. Cena is on the way to retirement. They're not belting him up. So again, I understand the sentiment, but it's a lame duck feud. Because we know what's happening. Solo Sikoa, man. Oh, good luck. That's fine, chat. We're trying our best here. We're digging deep. Solo Sikoa is not a top guy. This is what this says, And can we admit it now? Can we say it? Can we say it out loud? Is it okay? Was Warren right all along? I said from the moment he came up from NXT, I said he's not a top guy, despite the fact that while he was in NXT and was very entertaining, I enjoyed his time in NXT. I thought he was pretty good, and he could have used more seasoning down there, but no, they had to call him up to do the bloodline thing. Everyone, when he was in NXT, was saying, he's a top guy. Well, there you have it. They put him in the toppiest top guy position, and he just comes off as a dud. He's not a top guy. Like Carmelo Hayes, like Austin Theory, and Braun Breaker. Although they might be doing something right with Braun. So I'm going to, I'm going to pull away from the Braun stuff. They might be doing it right. But Solo, look, he's slow. He doesn't know what to do during his control segments. He is not a top guy. and this dude is main eventing SummerSlam. A SummerSlam, by the way, that WWE fans told me that it was going to be Cody versus The Rock or The Rock versus Roman. The same SummerSlam coming out of WrestleMania that people were rubbing their hands together or like, oh boy, Roman will be back in time to face The Rock at SummerSlam. Or maybe it'll be Cody and The Rock. And the match itself, listen, they were having this was a bloodline rules match, which essentially is no holds barred, right? They do whatever they want. And they were having a clean, nondescript match right until the interference started. No chairs, no, weapons, no illegal stuff, like just stuff. No stuff, nothing at all. Crowd is sitting on its hands, waiting for people to run in. They are sitting there waiting for Roman Reigns to come in. Nobody cares about this match. They're just waiting for shit to happen. Because they all know bloodline rules match is all about. They just wait for the things to happen. There is no reason to get connected to this match. And this is one of the problems that I was talking about earlier, is that if you're sitting there just waiting for shit to happen, there's no point in getting involved in the match, because most of the time, whatever happened before the thing happens becomes invalidated. Well, why was I invested in the first 8 minutes of this match if we're going to have dudes come in and do stuff? You see how infuriating it is. And it's a bloodline match, so everyone knows the routine. It's the same routine. It's the same story on top of that. It's not even an original story. It's not even a new story. It's the same old tale over and over again. It's the same old match pattern over and over again. Booker of the Year, Paul Levesque can only book one thing. Cut and paste. Well, he learned it from the best. Gorillas of Destiny run in, and Tongaloa blows another spot. Can you believe this guy? And he doesn't have a concussion to sort of blame him, to blame on. He blows another spot. He's supposed to pick up Cody and ram him into the turnbuckle, but he rams him into the ropes instead. Can you believe this guy? This guy's been wrestling for what, 20 years? We told you, WWE fans, we told you when you got really excited that the Gorillas of Destiny were in WWE. We told you, yeah, but Tongaloa kind of stinks now. We told you. And he blows another spot. He's got one thing to do per match. Not even match. Per outing. And he blows it. Every time. That brings out Kevin Owens. That brings out Randy Orton, who jogs to the ring, a light jog to the ring. Then Roman comes out. Rhodey gets the win with a crossroads, but he felt dwarfed by Roman here. Because he sat in the corner and he just looked at Roman, hit the spear hit the Superman punch and hit the spear on Solo Sikoa. And he came in here and he saved Cody. That's how commentary was expressing it, right? Cody hit the crossroads, right? Before Roman came in. So technically he was okay. But then Roman comes in and then does the spear, the Superman punch and the spear, and then he leaves. And he really didn't save Cody, but commentary was saying, who would have thought, with how WrestleMania finished, that Roman Reigns would come out to destroy Cody Rhodes' opponent, and you're like, yeah? So you're kind of saying that Roman came in to save the day when the day didn't needed to be saved in the first place. And you know where this is all going? We're going to another story for control of the bloodline. Again. We're doing this again. You see what I mean? I've seen this story 5 times, I think. I don't know. Control of the bloodline. My God, there really is only one story or two here. Anyway, I thought the match was bad, but I didn't think it was the worst match of the night. What did I rate this? 2.5 stars. And I didn't even think it was the worst match of the night. I'm wondering what I should do next. Chat, help me out here. Should we jump right to Drew McIntyre and CM Punk? Or should I do maybe just reverse order? I don't know what to do. What would be the smartest thing to do? Okay, you know what? We're gonna do Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. Which, in the mind of a lot of people, this was the main event. In my opinion, I thought this had the potential to be the main event. I thought this was going to be the main event because it was the match with the most heat. It was extraordinarily well built. I thought that this was going to end the show. And then I think on SmackDown, they said, our main event's going to be under Bloodline rules. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's not Drew and Punk. But, here's the thing. I was legitimately excited to see this match. I was excited to see this match. And here it is, and there it is, it happened. There it is, folks. One of the worst matches I've seen all year. And I'm not even trying to be hyperbolic. When is the last time? I don't say that very often on this show reviewing matches. And I'm not trying to be cute. I really believe that this is this is one of the worst matches I've seen all year. Maybe not of all time, but definitely all year. This was something pretending to be a wrestling match. One, like I said at the tippy top of the review, one of these things where everything just distracts and overshadows the match to a degree where it's like the match doesn't exist. It has no value. There is nothing in the match that could possibly make you excited, This is when I absolutely buy and understand when Paul Levesque tells Sports Illustrated that WWE isn't a sport, it's a TV show or a movie about a sport. There you go. I get it. That's exactly it. That's exactly what this was. This was not a wrestling match. It was not a sporting wrestling match. It was a TV show about wrestling. It's like I'm watching the Glow show on Netflix. I'm watching Heels, starring Green Arrow. That's what I'm watching. I'm watching people tell me a tale about about what wrestling kind of is, right? It's a TV show about wrestling. Absolutely, I get it. This is the perfect representation of that. I'm telling you, This show was the avatar of everything I really hate about North American pro wrestling. And I'm telling you, between those, have any of you seen, without actually necessarily having watched, you know, those soccer animes? They're really big. You know, they're about like high school soccer teams, and you have drama and all this stuff, and our team will be the best. You know, an anime, right? And they do these 60-second soliloquies as someone is, you know, about to kick a ball, where in reality he just kicked the ball. But we got to stretch it out to a minute because you're thinking that person is thinking all these thoughts, and we have to process them. You know, this is what this match was like. And this is why I think Paul Levesque, I understand his vision. I understand what he means, because this is exactly it. A television production about what a wrestling match is, you know? And quite frankly, I think outside of that, I think this is I'm stunned at the amount of people who are like, bravo, masterful gambit, sir. This should be a match WWE fans should be furious about regarding the outcome, because it was inarguably the best built match on the show, and by far it was legitimately well built. A real angry, heated feud, one that started in November, right when Drew walked out on the show, or walked out of the show when CM Punk showed up, right? And there were these reports. This has been brewing since November, and only, you know, Punk's injury only made this better. Yeah, and it's a match that CM Punk, the day before, let me get the quote. The day before promised this, okay, here it is. Promised, quote, the city of Cleveland and everybody watching on Peacock, he promised this, promised a level of violence that is going to make you very, very uncomfortable. That's the exact quote that CM Punk said at one of their goofy, press events beforehand. This show, this feud where Punk and Drew walked the line so well between work and shoot and made it feel real. Punk's injury made it feel better. Like I said, this was the best match they had going as far as heat goes. And all they had to do was drop these two guys in the ring and let them beat the piss out of each other. That's all they needed to do. That's really all they needed to do. There was nothing satisfying. There was nothing good. There was nonsense. There was no payoff. There's nothing. Nothing felt real or sincere or good. And you know what? It all started going downhill when they shoehorned Seth Rollins into the match, who probably, had a little fit, complained he wasn't on the show. He had a little bitchy moment on the show that was being kept off of SummerSlam. So they shoehorned him into this when it wasn't needed, because the entire feud was Punk and McIntyre. We didn't need a third person in here. It's bad booking, folks. It's just basic bad booking that led to this. And Seth comes out and he takes all the attention away. Why? Because he's wearing goofy clothes again. And people are going, Seth, you're so wacky. And the crowd is doing his chant while they're fighting. They're on the floor at the start of the match. They're fighting CM Punk and Drew. In that little modicum, that little sliver of time that happened in this match when they started pummeling each other. And I was like, okay, let's go. Where I had hope, where I'm like, the audience was chanting Seth's theme song, and he had a shitting grin on his face. He was so happy about it. And the camera cuts to him. Why did I know he was smiling? Because the camera would cut to Seth smiling instead of saying focused on the action. Why? But why focus on the action? It didn't matter in this match. There was no reason to be focused or invested in the action because it was all about a friendship bracelet. It was all about a little, $10 thing that was crafted together. This is what it was all about. It wasn't about the action. Nothing else mattered here. CM Punk was supposed to win. He was set up to win. He had Drew in the GTS, and he was ready to knock him out and get the win, but he saw the bracelet on Seth Rollins, and he said, what the hell are you doing with that? And he lets Seth get down. He just drops him down. Instead of doing the GTS, he just drops him down. Give me the bracelet. Instead of doing the fucking GTS, getting the pin, then getting the bracelet. Do you see how stupid this is? I have people, grown fucking adults, explaining to me, well, don't you get it, Warren? He has sentimental value. There's sentimental value for him and he's very attached. Yes, but he could actually just win the match and then we can have the post-match nonsense. I couldn't believe it. CM Punk decided to forego winning the match to focus on something else like Rhea. Just like Rhea did. We're going to talk about her in a bit, but I guess this is a reflection of how fans don't care about the matches, they just care about the stories. This is the thing. But in an environment where matches are payoffs to stories on pay-per-views, this is what it should be. Matches on pay-per-views should be payoffs or at least big turning points in an angle. In a feud, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Punk stopped the match because of a friendship bracelet. He stopped fighting because he needed to grab his friendship bracelet, just like all his heroes did. Terry Funk, Tracy Smothers, all did this as well. Oh, you all remember Terry Funk going for that friendship bracelet instead of beating the tar out of Onita. Brett had to let go of the sharpshooter on Steve Austin. You all remember that? The boys on the flagship podcast made a great point in saying that there is no way Phil Brooks, CM Punk, went out there and enjoyed what he did. Not the man that we've known for the better part of 20 years at this point, 24 years. He's out there the night before on the little Cleveland thing, talking about creating uncomfortable violence, okay? And the only discomfort that I felt in this match was due to secondhand embarrassment. There's no way Phil Brooks kind of stuff all throughout the 2000s was out there saying to himself, I'm proud of what I did. Then he went back to the locker room and was patting himself on the back and going, damn, that was good stuff. There's no way. There's no way. And I understand the guy's a consummate liar, but there's no way he's proud of this. No way, deep down inside of him, where he thinks that this was great, that this guy who keeps referencing the greats and he wears his influences on his sleeve. All these great pro wrestlers who were gritty, who were real. This same guy who said, Men should sell their things like men, and where he's being sincere about it. He can't be looking back at this and saying, hot diggity. God damn it. I wish Harley Race was around to see this. No way. This is a guy who was doing Bret Hart tributes all throughout his AEW tenure. He was having dog collar matches. He was about to have a strap match with Ricky Starks. You're going to tell me that running after a friendship bracelet is going to make him fills him with pride? He's obviously doing this. He's obviously doing this because he wants to keep a job. And that's okay. He's obviously doing this to keep it. He wants to run NXT someday. I mean, that's fairly clear. So all he's doing right now, he's doing what the Booker man says. There was a time, this was the guy who he'd hand wave this kind of stuff. He'd hand wave this kind of creative, and he threatened to walk out of the building. But now, the idiot son-in-law gives him his marching orders, and he complies like a good little soldier because he's part of a machine. He's part of a bigger thing, something bigger. He's part of a machine. He's part of it now. As we like to say here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, that's not very punk of you, CM Punk. He's been around long enough. This is what's happening here. The arc is coming full circle. He's been around long enough to finally become the villain, to become the thing he always raged about years ago. He is now that. He's the exact thing he hated. He's just another dopey sports entertainer. Nothing special about him. No commitment to what he loves. He's just waiting for the checks in the mail. And I'll tell you again. This was one of the worst matches I've seen this year. The work was not there. It was all nonsense. No focus. Terrible direction. There was, and I think above it all, the problem is that there were very high expectations for this match, at least on my end, because out of everything that I saw coming into SummerSlam, I said it at the start, I'll say it again, this was the match that felt most like a real deal, raw, great feud that had a lot on the line, that had personal issues, bad blood, true bad blood, excuse me for the upcoming PLE joke, unintended. These expectations were so high, and it failed so completely, utterly. Like, you put this on Raw, I'm not even having a modicum of the discussion we're having right now. I'm not. I'm brushing it off. I'm saying that's an angle, whatever. But no, this is exactly what it led to. A complete nothing match that distracted from the feud, that took everything that the feud was and made it into a mockery, into a match that wasn't even one. But again, maybe this is the ultimate representation of what WWE fans want in 2024. They don't want matches. They never talk about matches. They always talk about the angles. They always talk about, oh, did you see the face? Oh, did you see when they said this? Oh, did you see when that guy came out? They never talk about matches. So who cares? A show about pro wrestling. Not a pro wrestling show. A show about pro wrestling. Just like Triple H told Sports Illustrated. A show about pro wrestling. Let's go back. Okay, I think I got the two biggest chunks out of the way. Let's go back to the start of the show and come down in order then. Liv Morgan successfully retained her WWE Women's World title against Rhea Ripley. And again, this is another match where everyone is just waiting for the thing to happen. This is exactly like the Bloodline match, where people are like, they're waiting for, they're just waiting for, they're just waiting for Dom. Why couldn't I remember his name? For some reason, I wish I could forget him completely. They're just waiting for Dom to come out and to turn on Rhea. And look, the match itself, Rhea seems to be in position to put Liv Morgan away early, but Morgan survived. She weasels her way out of it, and then there's the dislocation stuff, which we already talked about. And then she, the shoulder, and she pops it back in by hitting the commentary table. Like, I have never seen. I'm pretty sure that's not how you pop an elbow, a shoulder back in. I'm pretty sure. Then she lands the riptide, and again, look, just like CM Punk and his pretty little bracelet, instead of pinning Liv Morgan, she goes to get a chair to beat her up. Now again, it's stupid because she's coming after Liv because of the stuff with Dom, and she wants her title back, the title that she never lost, like she says. So you land her finisher, get the pin, get the win, get your title back, then get a chair, then beat the tar out of the woman. Right? Isn't that what we should do here? No, because baby faces in WWE are stupid. So she goes for a chair. And if Rhea doesn't care about winning a title, why should we care? If she's in the match and she's ready to throw it away, she's ready to throw it away. Why should I care? She'll challenge her again, Warren. She had her. It doesn't matter. The psychology is completely off. Rhea looks like a dummy, but she's a babyface now. And WWE doesn't book smart babyfaces. They just don't. Then the dumb stuff happens. He keeps Rhea from swinging the chair, and then he leaves the chair in the ring, and he's pointing to the chair. He's basically saying, because he's distracting the ref, and he's pointing to the chair, and he's telling Liv, use the chair, use the chair. And then, he does his turn. Liv wins. Look, I'm not into this. Like I said, stories getting into the way of the flow of a wrestling match, you lose me. You completely lose me. There can be, there's interference I can deal with, like, let's say, Finn Balor later this evening. That would be okay. But this stuff, it just transforms whatever we're watching from a match into something else. Again, a television show about pro wrestling, not a pro wrestling show. So Rhea comes off as a big dummy, and now Liv is a part of the Judgment Day, and this is all stuff I don't care about. I gave this match 2.5 stars. I didn't even give you my ratings for the other matches. I gave Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa 2.5 stars as well. And Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk, I gave it 1.5 stars. Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker. Good booking, good little match. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it quite a bit, actually. I thought this was really well booked. Turns out they cut the time on the match. It was supposed to go 10 minutes. You could not have asked for a better match to cut the time off, to shave time off, and get the desired result. Like, I'm kind of disappointed to learn that they were supposed to go 10 minutes with this, because I was like, finally, we can point to some really interesting booking that Triple H pulled off here. Because I think Braun is in a position where if he's booked like a maniac and he just plows through people, then that elevates him. Beating Sammy in like, what was the time? 4 minutes, 42 seconds. Beating Sammy in less than 6 minutes on pay-per-view, on SummerSlam. That's a hell of a statement. That's a statement win. I'm like, okay. You know, because I thought their previous match was very humdrum. Was it a Money in the Bank? I didn't think it was all that good. I even thought it fell apart. But I was like, okay, so they went shorter to mask Breaker's negatives and enhance the positives. And I thought this was a masterful way of doing it. I really liked this. I thought it was great, and it was smart booking. Sammy's a good guy to put him over to. This worked. This just worked. I gave this 3.25 stars. How about that? I didn't hate everything on this show. You know what else I didn't hate? This match here. LA Knight defeating Logan Paul to become the U.S. champion. So, Machine Gun Kelly comes out with Logan Paul and corners him. We're talking about Jelly Roll earlier on being a rap guy who pivoted to the country, got out of the rap game and went to country, right? And Machine Gun Kelly got bullied out of rap by Marcus Mathers. And you know what? I'll tell you one thing. I really think that I think this is LA Knight's best WWE match, and by a long margin. And I'm not extensively familiar with the work of Eli Drake overall, but I don't even recall like his TNA days when that or something. Where I'm like, hey, Eli Drake, yeah. But this here, goddamn, I thought this was really good. And, you know, I even saw some people saying, oh, Logan Paul carried LA Knight to a... And I don't think so. It didn't come across as a carry job. I think Paul, as usual, you know, held his own and you know, continues to show that he's got just so many natural talents for pro wrestling. But he I don't think he carried LA Knight to a great match. I think LA Knight put on his working boots. I think LA Knight maybe was kind of sick of people saying, yeah, it's LA Knight, he kind of stinks. It's like, okay, time to go to work then. In my first singles title in WWE. I think if we got more of this LA Knight, I wouldn't be so critical all the time. This was good. And Machine Gun Kelly throws he gives the brass knuckles to Logan Paul. He does the thing where he comes over the rope and then decks the guy, right? But it didn't work out because LA Knight countered it and lands his finisher for the win. I never remember the name of the finisher: the BTF, the BLF, the MJF, the KLF. KLF's gonna rock you. Rock the night. Yeah, I gave this match 3.25 stars as well. This is good. Nia Jax defeated Bayley to become the new WWE Women's Champion. God, this stunk. This was really bad. You know, the story, I guess, is that Nia Jax is mad at Bayley for calling her reckless, clumsy, but mostly reckless, right? That's the one. Yeah, I'm reckless, You say I'm reckless, Bayley. And this makes her angry. But she's the heel. She's the heel. Shouldn't she be like, yeah, I like to hurt people? She's the heel. Why is she taking this personally? She's like, yeah, I'm reckless and you're fighting me. So, you know what? Like, why does, I know what they're doing. They're making a story out of Nia Jax's, they've been doing a story about Nia Jax's, they've been incorporating the story of Nia Jax's, her reputation, that's what I was looking for, into this feud of, of her being reckless and hurting people, right? That's the legitimate thing. And I don't leaning into it. I don't know why she's not leaning into it. I don't understand. It's so weird. I feel like the heel would be happy about that. And look, she does the softest bonsai drops ever. Just like a cloud landing on you. Bayley's powerbomb off the top rope is impressive. Of course, you have the smaller person doing, a power move on a bigger one. That you'll always like, whoa, that's always a big spot and good. And then Tiffany Stratton comes in and she distracts. I think she's cashing in, but she's just a distract so that Nia can win. And is the thing that Tiffany Stratton thinks that she can beat Nia Jax easier than Bayley? That's kind of weird. And I always thought she was going to lay her out right there, but she didn't. I don't understand this at all. But you know what? I'm just saying, in this company that I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if they don't redo the Alexa Bliss Nia Jax story. Where you remember that one where Alexa would be like a mean girl to her, say nice things but say bad things behind her back. And then eventually, Nia overcame her bully when once Alexa Bliss had fully turned, right? You remember that? I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to do this all over again. But with Tiffany Stratton, which is actually part of her personality, it would make perfect sense for Tiffany to be a mean girl, a bully, because that's her thing, right? That's her personality. That's her gimmick. I thought this was slow. It was boring. I gave this 1.5 stars. I thought this was boring. We have, in the chat saying I thought this was Nia's best match. Well, when the bar's in the dirt, what else do we have left? What's left? Did we talk about the Miz segment? No, we didn't. R-Truth is there with the Miz, and then the Miz's two clones come in and they do some really bad comedy. They do the announcement for the attendance. What is being a host of a pay-per-view? Like, the Miz will be the host of SummerSlam. What is it? What does it mean? What does it do? You come out once at the start, and then you come out another time to do to do the attendance number, and then you go home. Sweet fucking gig. Anyway, this was not funny. The Miz clones are not funny. Miz is not funny. R-Truth can be funny. Made a Ricky Morton joke. Shout out. And finally, well, yeah, we only have one match left. Gunther defeated Damian Priest to become the new WWE World Consolation Prize champion. And this was the match of the night. This was undisputedly the match of the night. A good match, very, very good stuff. Chop battle was awesome. I got people sending me stuff about, sending me stuff saying, sending me screenshots of people saying, "Oh, this is a New Japan match." It is not. But thank you for playing. They just see guys chopping each other. They're like, "Oh, it's New Japan." Thanks for trying, though. Your spirit's in the right place. Your heart's in the right place. And the thing, WWE fans will they'll talk about their stories and how the stories are so important, and it's all about the stories and the stories, and no one does it better than the stories and stories. But then they have something that resembles a wrestling match, and they go bonkers for it, right? Comparing it to things they've never watched. They get excited. So you can keep telling me about your stories all you want, and having that secondhand that insecurity about pro wrestling, but when it comes down to it, you are deep down a wrestling fan. You just don't you just don't want to admit it. Because when the wrestling gets good, you get excited. Otherwise, the stories are great. Anyway, this was good, regardless of it all. This was good. I thought I thought Gunther's seat segment was good. There's a couple of things in the match where I was like a little annoyed. Like, when Gunther lifts, Damian Priest lifts Gunther and starts pulling off some of his big moves, and then goes to pin him, but then rolls him towards the side of the ring so that Finn Balor can put the foot on the rope, right? And he rolls him, and I'm like, why are you rolling him closer to the side of the ring? Like, I knew why he was doing it. I knew what he was setting up, but it's like, that doesn't make sense. But ultimately, in this evening of just complete nonsense, it was fine. And so basically, Finn Balor turned on Damian Priest and essentially kicked him out of the Judgment Day. And 2 attempts at a sleeper because Damian Priest is distracted by Finn Balor. And then, see, this is another thing. He completely loses focus on the match and focuses on Finn Balor, but he's got a title to defend, one that he said he was very proud of, and so on and so forth. There you go. He gets distracted, and I liked the finish. I liked Gunther. I like Gunther winning with a sleeper hold. That's not something you see every day, and I think that's really effective, and it also works in this persona that Gunther has of being a straight-laced pro wrestler, right? So a sleeper hold would be effective. I like the finish outside of the interference, but then again, everything had interference. Like, the only match that didn't have interference was Sammy versus Braun Breaker. That was the only one. Everything else had someone sticking their nose in it. Every single match did. I gave it 3.5 stars. I think it's the match of the night. It was very good. And that's about it, I think. Yeah, that's it. We're done. And I mean, you can ask Damian Priest what's next. You know, it's hard to not perceive Gunther as world championship material, but this is like it's the consolation prize. It's not the real world championship. So, you know, it's fine, I guess. You know, Gunther winning this title, I think, is good for Gunther. Damian Priest, well, he's going back to mid-card town to feud with Finn Balor and the rest of his boys, previously his boys. So, you know, and you know, since he's become a babyface, now he's stupid too. He lets himself get distracted and stops wrestling for the reasons that he's in this wrestling match in the first place. So, overall, I thought this was not a good show, and I don't think the work was good. I don't think it was there. I think it was a tedious watch. It was a frustrating watch. I don't know. This wasn't very good. That was SummerSlam Cleveland. I'm going to say 2024, but I got to stick to the branding. And that should do it. You know what? That does it actually for the entirety of this show tonight. Thank you all very much for joining me on this ride this evening. If you are watching on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes right now, could I interest you in leaving a like? Could I interest you in subscribing if this is your first time here? All this would be tremendous, and I would be excited to have you on other occasions as well. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings on Spotify help out tremendously. I will be back tomorrow for the continuation of the G1 Climax 34 daily coverage, just like I will be back on Thursday for another edition of the Dynamite Review. So Warren is busy these days. I want to thank everyone for joining me live. I appreciate everyone who stuck till the very bitter end. Thank you so much. That's about it. I'll see you next time.